You are the pioneers. With your visions, your ideas, and your passion to make things better. And we are the ones who protect you from pitfalls. We are by your side whenever needed as a true fellow. Reliable, pragmatic, realistic. Together we make your product come alive. Imagine you enjoy improvement. Process Fellows.
Hello and welcome everybody to our today's webinar, Competitive Besides Processes. We are presenting this webinar today because it's kind of a rough time and complexity is increasing, and of course you need to fulfill some processes. And my colleague Timo, he stated 5 interesting theses up front, and he will explain some backgrounds about these theses in this webinar and explain the activities behind that and how to actually be competitive with processes. But before we come to Timo and his presentation, let's first have some words about Process Fellows. My name is Alexander. I work as a consultant for Process Fellows, and I'm going to be the moderator for this webinar. We are operating mainly in the topic automotive spies. So this is a topic most of you will know about Process Fellows, but not only automotive spies in general. We have some other topics as well, what we cover. For example, we are operating also in the field of project management, in the field of ALM and agile methods. Also, when it comes to organizational change, this is also a topic we are interested in and of course consult you in. And then we have another, let's say, path, which is then systems engineering, cybersecurity and functional safety. So these are general topics what we cover from our portfolio. We are, let's say, operating in 4 different topics. Most of you will know us maybe for the assessment side. So we do many assessments, also gap analysis. Also from the training side, we are well known. So we perform many Intex certified trainings. And also, of course, we provide some hands-on coaching, some consulting activities to really improve your processes and guide you through these challenging times. Let's have a look at some upcoming trainings, what we offer. So we have many offers and we have many trainings in June, which take place. The majority of them are already guaranteed, so you can book your slot if one of the topics is an interest for you. We have the official Intex certified trainings, but as well we have some own trainings, for example, the practice in cybersecurity. So please have a look on our webpage to get the information about the training and to book your slot. So let's talk about some organizational topics. Please stay muted throughout the presentation. You can ask your questions at the end, of course, and you can use the F&A section to type in your questions. And please be aware this webinar will be recorded, so it will be published in the internet, on YouTube and on our webpage. So you can also have a look after that, and it will take around 1 to 2 weeks, and we publish this webinar for further reading and for further listening again. Okay. Now let's introduce my colleague Timo. There he is. So Timo is an Intex certified principal assessor and instructor, so he can also conduct trainings. He has a strong background in automotive, mechanical, and hardware, and also cybersecurity spies. He is part of some working groups, some Imtex working groups, especially for cybersecurity and mechanical spies. And his main topics is, like I said before, the implementation of spies, functional safety, cybersecurity in organizations. And he will now tell us something about competitive despite processes. So I head over to you, Timo.
Thanks a lot, Alex, for this friendly introduction, and welcome everybody to my webinar. Just give me a second and I'm going to start the presentation. So good. Then, now welcome to Competitive Despite Processes. Today, I don't want to talk about those specific topic that Alex just mentioned, like SPICE or IETFs, so on. No, today I would like to share a little bit my experience, and I would invite everybody to have a fruitful discussion at the end of this presentation here. For more than 15 years now, I'm working with processes, I'm working with standards and methods. And most of the time, I can tell you this is working with people. So it is very often talking about to convince them, to discuss the pros and cons, or to try to focus on the benefits of improvement ideas. And during the last month, I think our situation was getting worse. It's more than ever about being competitive. And right in this time, I was reading a lot about people that are telling us that processes, they will slow us down, and standards, they are not worth to deal with this. Those slogans here, you can read them everywhere, and maybe some of you already here are tired of all those slogans, and maybe some of you even start to believe in them. And for today, for the next 30 minutes, I would like to give those slogans a kind of stage here, and I will try to look a little bit behind them, trying to give you a little bit about the background here, and trying to share my experience and my opinion with them. And afterwards, as I told you, I would like to invite you to hear your opinion about those slogans as well. So before we come to the slogans itself, let's have a look at the current situation. So what has changed? And I think the situation already was like I'm going to present you right here, but this is what has increased during the last month. So we're living in a time of pressure, especially in automotive industry. We are really in a time of pressure, and this is where I would say we're talking about external pressures here. It is this increasing cost pressure. It's growing complexity here. We have less and less time. It seems like there are competitive all over the world that are able to deliver their products faster and cheaper than we do. Yeah, but there is more to do, especially because of all those conditions like connected driving on the one hand, but even to learn to start with using AI in our development projects. This is getting more and more complex at the same time. But besides those external pressures, we still feel those internal pressures because our employees, they suffer from this situation. So it's getting worse for them as well because they have less time to deliver their products. We expect that they are working without any kind of failures here, and we still are not able to tell them what will happen in the future, what will happen with us, with all the changes that are happening all around us. And still, there are those silly guys coming from quality, like we do, and they still expect process compliant implementation in accordance with applicable standards. So they still are standing there and tell us, hey, you have to work according to those kind of standards. You have to stick to the process here. But how can we ensure those compliant implementations and at the same time still earn money to stay alive in our business here? And I think exactly this kind of situation, this was leading some, sorry to say, but some silly guys in just announcing some slogans at the moment, maybe just to become famous. I collected 5 of those slogans, and in my opinion, those are the most relevant for today. So here they are, because this will be the agenda for the next minutes here. First of all, standards block our flexibility. Second, processes slow us down. The third one, projects only ever need more resources. Number 4, documentation is an annoying overhead. And number 5, more roles always means more stuff. Maybe you all heard of them already. I did, really. And what I would like to do on the next slides is to look a little bit behind them, and not only giving you some background facts to those slogans here. No, I try to give you already some recommendations on those topics, maybe something that helps you in your business or to discuss it with other people right here. And at the end, I will sum it up and coming to a conclusion here. Good. Then here, time to start with the first one. Standards block our flexibility. So I'm talking about all those kind of standards like 9001, IATF, SPICE, CMMI, or whatever. So when we talk about standards, question at first, what are standards anyway? So the idea of standard is pretty easy. We can learn from our failures because we are just humans, we do failures. And out of the failures, we try to get some lessons learned, trying to see why happened this and what can we do for improvement in the future to make our work better, to do less kind of failures. So the real idea of writing down a standard is that we have collected over many years. Here, some standards are very, very old. In different countries, here, they're spread all over the world. In different projects and by a large number of people, we collected a lot of best practices, lessons learned from previous projects, and those best practices to avoid failures, to discover failures early, and to fix failures faster. This was the real idea of standard. So it is not the idea to judge someone in the way he's doing things, or to just do it to complain about the situation and the projects. No, it was an idea of helping the people. What does it mean? Are those standards, if they are really written to reduce failures, to make sure we can learn from the past, are those standards are really contradicting the idea of innovation? And here, as I told you, I'm working with standards for quite a long time. And I hear this very, very often here, that standards are completely contradicting the idea of innovation. But this is not true. Because only when we have recurring processes, projects, procedures, and they are standardized, then we have enough resources to turn ideas into innovations. Why? Because just imagine every time you do something new and you start from scratch, all your concentration, all your resources, all the power you have, you are using for everything. And this includes everything that you are doing again and again. So what are we doing in our projects? We are thinking about how to look for an approach, how to get an idea for a new concept, or how to create a documentation, how to structure documents. So we are losing a lot of time in things that are not worth thinking about it. This is like sitting in a car. You want to drive somewhere, and it takes you about an hour to just learn all the things you have to do in the car that you learned during driving school. No, this is what you learned in the past, so just do it again. And if you don't believe me, then just think about this. Where would the development of electrical devices be today if we haven't standardized plugs? Imagine you are creating a kind of electrical device somewhere, and you want to sell it somewhere all over the world, and you have no idea how to get power somewhere. And this is why we have those standardized things like the standardized plugs. So we can skip this idea from all our concept, and we have more room, more time to concentrate on the real on our real task here. And the real task should be the innovation. But this means we take the resources that we have, we take the power we have, and just put it in the innovation. So thinking about creative ideas for the problem that we have. So the idea of standards is not blocking our flexibility. No, it is improving our flexibility, improving our innovation by focusing more on the relevant topics that really need our resources and our concentration here. But why is there still this kind of slogan here? I think this is because there is maybe an idea about standards that it's a kind of misinterpretation of many people. And this is why I put down, last but not least here, a sentence, a kind of lessons learned or recommendation to you. Standards do not describe reality. Please never forget here, standards cannot describe the reality because they're generic. Here, they're just lessons learned from the past, and they're not your situation you're in right now. They have to be interpreted and translated into corporate language. Here, so if you have a standard, try to see what does this mean for my business right here, and how can I translate this to words that everybody is able to understand in my business here. So then standard is not the sign you have to follow, then standard is a kind of support to support your innovation here. Time for the next slogan. Let's move on to processes slow us down. Working according to process means we need more time. That's getting more expensive here. We are losing money. Let's have a look at how are we approaching typically our task. This is a very simple idea of how we are going to work with task. First of all, we recognize and analyze the problem that we see. Then we're finding an idea for a solution, and then we're working on the implementation of solution. So then, let's go. Let's start, and this is how we can approach our task. We analyze by experience because everybody, all the people in our business, they're experienced already, they have a lot of knowledge. So we already have an idea of how to find out the root cause here. Then let's trial and error, and our first try is done. We're pretty fast in presenting the first solution here. But to be honest, most of the time, that's not the solution at the end, because we need correction. It requires a second try. And even then, we're maybe not done. We still need correction. Third try. So we do it again and again. This is a little bit like development has happened in the past. Let's just have the first try. And out of a try, we start to learn and we improve. But exactly this is what is costing time. And this is what is costing a lot of resources. But what does it mean? What is the idea of working according to processes? The way is slightly different, and I know there is not really a timing inside of my slide here, but it should show you already, yes, this way might take longer than just the first try that we could have achieved without our processes. So process means we select a method. We have an idea of how to analyze the problem first, how to really describe the process. Then we're really following the process that is telling us how to come up with an idea, how to create the concept. So it's leading us through this chain of activities, and finally we receive the solution. If we always would be happy with the first try, and we're satisfied with the first try, maybe then that's the better way. But this is not reality. We always need those corrections. And this is where we lose time. But working according to processes means doing it right the first time, here from scratch. That's the idea of processes. It is like you're sitting in an airplane here and you listen to the people in the cockpit and the pilot is talking to his co-pilot. Hey, before takeoff, wasn't there something we have to do? I think we have to check maybe the fuel, or have you checked the fuel? I think so. And something about the engines. Yes, I think that's all done. Yeah. There is no second try in an airplane. They have to do it right the first time. And this is why they are using processes. Yeah. They have a process to follow, and they are sticking to the process to make sure they're working without any problems in the first try already. So this is why we want to use processes. And how often do we use those kind of processes? I think those questions everybody already asked you, so you know it always. In the morning, when we make our coffee, we use processes. When we go out shopping, we use our processes. When we want to have a vacation with our children, oh yes, we have a process. We need the process because every failure will get very, very loud. Or when we build a house, hey, everybody already been in a house. Yeah, we know about houses, but we have no idea of how to build a house. Yes, we need a process because failures might get very, very expensive here. There are many, many more expensive where we need processes. So why is there this slogan that process slow us down? This is why I think this is just because in many organizations, I saw kind of processes that do not follow this idea of here telling the people exactly what activities to be done. Processes must be lean and helpful at the same time. What does it mean? Not too much information. Here, if you have too much information, it's a book, but you just want to have a short answer. So if you want, or if you just need a short answer, an idea of the activities you have to follow, and you have to read through hundreds of pages of your process description and different methods that are still open for selection, then most of your employees will just throw the process away. Nobody will work according to them. So those processes are not helpful. This is over-engineering. And at the same time, not too few information. Here, if you have just this information, hey, caution, here, you have no idea why. What's the problem? Here, what might be the danger in this situation? So if you just have for example, a project management process and you just see, hey, it's very simple to do project management in our organization. Plan your project, execute the project, close the project. Then nobody will use this kind of process because this is not helpful at the same time. Processes are always coming out of the view of the developers. Try to imagine really the situations like on the top of this page here in the morning when you make a coffee. Let's imagine it would be someone else and you're telling them, hey, how do you want your coffee? Give them a clear and simple instruction that is helpful. That's the idea of using processes, making processes that are not slowing us down here. Next slogan, projects only ever need more resources. I never met a guy from project management that was telling me, hey, we have more resources than we need here. We have plenty of time. So no, everybody's complaining we need more resources. Is it really that we need more resources? Let's see, first of all, how resources relate to the duration. A very simple calculation. Let's imagine we have a task here, and we have one person, and this person will need 10 hours for this task. And then that's very simple for our planning activity. If we would have 2 people, they need just 5 hours. 5 people, they need 2 hours. 10 people, they need just 1 hour. So very simple. This is why we need more resources, because more people means less hours of effort. Very simple, isn't it? Let's try to look a little bit behind whether this calculation is correct or not, whether we really need more resources here. What does it mean when people work together? If you have 3 people in your project, that's good. Everybody is working on their task. What does it mean? Those people, if they have to work together as a team, they have to communicate to each other. So let's start communication. And you see, they can talk to each other, that everybody's talking to everybody. Let's increase our team. Now we have 5 people. Hey, still very easy, right? We have a team of 5 people. They can work together, and let's have a meeting, and everybody needs to talk to everybody. And this is what happens. So what was our situation on the last page? Hey, if we have just 10 people, they need just 1 hour. Very, very easy. So let's talk about 10 people, and let's start conversation between the 10 people, and this is what happens. Sorry for taking your time here, but maybe this helps you to see what really happens. This is costing time here. The more people, the more time for communication is needed. And this is where we really lose the time. Yeah? If everybody needs to talk to everybody in your team, this is where you lose time. So 10 people, I think after 1 hour, they are still in discussing and they're far away from the solution. And in the same time, one person alone would be much faster. So the more people, the more experience exchange we have in our teams, but the more communication effort we have as well. So if it's not the resources here, if it's not that more people are helping us, what is really the problem in our project here? And I just collect now here some of the real problems that you might have in your teams. And this is where you should look for, like clear allocation of tasks. If you have a task and plenty of people are thinking about solving them without having an idea who is really responsible, you're losing time. Or a clear idea of what really needs to be done, maybe different interpretation of the same task, or that the conditions are unclear at the moment. The people have not the education, the experience in working on their tasks. They have to work together. Or especially talking about suitable method and tools here. And this is where, here, you know the old word, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So it's not about proving as many tools as you can. No, I'm talking about suitable methods, suitable tools. So thinking about what kind of tool, what kind of method might be useful. Thinking about them and trying to find a better solution, maybe a better approach for the people working in your project here. Let's continue with the next slogan. Documentation is an annoying overhead. Does documentation have a real benefit? So what is documentation good for? Why do we need it in our projects? Again, let's try a simple example here. Hey, come on, let's go shopping. At the end, what we can realize if we just go shopping, that we have forgotten something that we wanted to buy and that we have once again bought more things that we don't need. So maybe we have to go again here. Maybe we need again time for correction here. What has documentation to do with this kind of exercise here, or with this example? Documentation would be a kind of shopping list. It's like a requirements specification that we document at the beginning when we start the idea of going shopping. Writing a shopping list means we need more time. Yes, it's really taking longer than just going out, going shopping. And then we can start with our real task later than expected. But at the end, we will recognize we're much faster now. Here, the documentation upfront helps us to speed up our task afterwards because we have an idea of what to do. We have a structured approach in what we want to do. So documentation can be a help to already organize the work that we are going to do. That's the idea of documentation typically. What can help us here to make sure that this time for writing the shopping list is not getting too long, or that writing the specification of our requirements is not getting too long. This is where we talk about templates and generic content here. So everybody who's really working with shopping list, hey, you have your sheet of paper here already prepared somewhere, and you have your pen somewhere. Maybe you have already an idea of how to write a shopping list, maybe in a structured way that it's easy to use it afterwards for your real task. That's the idea of templates and generic content. Very often we, let's say, forget our documentation here. We skip it. What does it mean? We need follow-up documentation. And we always find out that follow-up documentation is very, very time consuming. Again, this is where we are losing really our time. So first of all, we cannot skip it at all because we need documentation for product liability. So we have to provide our documentation. So what's the difference now between documentation in the upfront and documentation afterwards? So if I split our task into two steps here, creating the idea in our mind and working on the solution already, the first would be to write the documentation right during creating the idea. It takes some time. Let's imagine it takes about X hours to write it down. Why do we need time? Because we use it, we need to bring the idea down to the paper, but it's still directly accessible somewhere in our brain, so we can just take it out of our brain and bring it down to the sheet of paper. And let's compare this with writing this kind of documentation after solution. So the follow-up documentation here. And this is where statistics will show you it takes about 7 times longer to write it down. Why? Because this idea that was at the beginning in your brain, this now must first be searched somewhere in your memory. This idea is gone. Your brain is not saving this any longer here because the idea was in your mind, but you already worked on the solution. So your brain tells you, hey, no need to keep this thought anymore, and it puts away somewhere in your memory. And this searching for memory, this is what really costs time, and this is where you're losing the time in your projects. So coming up with some recommendation here. So as you see, we need the documentation. How can we improve this? How can we make it easier for us? We need to provide the templates. We need to provide some generic content, and please manage the quantity. More is not always better. Keep it simple, that it's still manageable what you need at your at documentation here. Finally, the last one. More roles always means more stuff. Let's have a look at this one as well. For example, do we need the role of a requirements manager? Just picking one example here. So you're looking in your process description and you see many roles. So do we really need all of them right away? Yes, probably. Don't forget, a role does not always mean it's a person. It's not about do we need the role? The question is a person able to take over this role? Maybe the granularity of the task here, or the amount of tasks that are assigned at the end together with the role to a person, they do not fit. And this is what you can double check. Roles and persons typically in your projects, they have an N by M relation. So let's look a little bit deeper inside of this real idea of a role. So what is really a role? Let's try to see a role like an idea of clustering activities, bringing together all the tasks that you can easily assign those tasks at the end to different people. A definition of powers, competencies, and an assignment of expected results, responsibilities. You remember when I talked about resources here? So who is really allowed to decide something? Who is really responsible for this kind of activity or responsible for this kind of result at the end? This is what you can easily define with a role. And by assigning people to this kind of role, you do not need more time for discussing topics here or bringing up a decision at the end who's working on this. No, you already assign it by roles here. This is similar to a labeling of activities and documents here. It could be the same. You just have the people and you just give everybody in your project a kind of label, and you put this label to all activities and all documents. That's it. And how can this be a benefit for you if you have a clear description of those roles? So the idea of a role is really to assign activities and documents more quickly, to really define the responsibilities, not losing the time in discussion here, and recognize overloads more easily and earlier even. And to give you an example of this, there is a guy, and you assign this guy to be a project manager in this kind of project. On the right side, this diagram should just give you a short impression of what does it mean, what is really the effort over time here that he needs for his task as a project manager. Typically, at the beginning of the project, it's a little bit bigger here because the project manager have to set up all the tasks here, have to set up all the planning activities to organize the complete project. Later on, it's a little bit less, and just from time to time, there are tasks here in doing the monitoring activities and providing maybe the releases at the end. If you assign a person to this kind of role, and you want to assign the same guy to the requirements manager and maybe even to a configuration manager, it's good to have an idea of the activities that are connected with this kind of role. Because at the end, you can look at the diagrams again, and oh surprise, requirements manager has pretty much the same diagram than the project manager and the configuration manager as well. Because all those roles, although they're completely different, they have different kind of responsibilities, they need plenty of time at the beginning of a project to set up the complete structure, to organize everything, to prepare everything, or to share the requirements, to introduce people in the tools to be used within this project. And later on, they need less time. They're just monitoring the activities here. If you have a description of roles, like in this short example, then you can put them together, and at the end, you can see, hey, wait, there is really an overload at the beginning here. If you see what tasks have to be performed by those people at what moment in time, you can see there might be an overload, and then you can work on a different allocation of the roles here. So roles also need to be managed. They need to be clustered sensibly. So try to find a meaningful clustering for the task to your roles here. So this was my background to all the 5 slogans. And at the end, before I would like to start maybe a discussion and trying to, or like to hear your questions here as well, I will try to sum it up in a kind of conclusion here. And this is where I take the topics that I mentioned at the very, very beginning that I was working for the last 15 years together on one page. When it's about standards, please never forget standards need to be interpreted correctly. They need to be translated into corporate language, and they need to be adapted to the respective context. So they are never the reality. They can just help you because they're a kind of lessons learned from the past. Processes should be defined in such a way that they do not specify too much, but also not too little. Remember, giving them 100 pages is not worth it. Just showing a sign is not helpful. So try to find a way in between, trying to describe the process out of the perspective of the people that really need the support here. Number 3, methods should be critically reviewed regularly for efficiency and effectiveness and improved if necessary. So it's not about more people are helping you to save the resources here. No, very often it's about methods here. That you're using some methods and you're losing time because nobody is aware of who is really responsible for what task and what is our approach here. So you're losing time in this kind of communication between the people. And this is where have an eye on the methods and critically check efficiency and effectiveness here. Number 4, we should manage documentation in order to standardize recurring information on the one hand, and to ensure early processing on the other. So documentation still is necessary. And yes, it seems to be a kind of overhead, But if we do it at the beginning, it's a help for us for the upcoming activities, and we're saving time because post-documentation is more time consuming. And to improve this, to support us here, we need this kind of standardization with content of structure here. And finally, we should cut rules appropriately to make it easier to assign tasks and quickly recognize overloads. This is the clustering of activities. This is making it more easy to assign the people to the real task and to recognize overloads that we can handle them early enough. So, still after all those discussions in the last month, I still stick to the idea of standards, processes, and methods here, because I think they are really a support for us. We are losing not time, we are not slowing us down, and we're not getting too inflexible by following them. No, they're a help for us. Only with this kind of ideas here, with maybe even my recommendations here, you can use it to be competitive in the future, even despite or because of the processes. And this is where I would like to end my presentation here. And here, invite you now for fruitful discussion. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Timo, for this very good presentation. I was checking the F&A session. Okay, we have one question from Frank. Timo, how to overcome the fact that new processes and standards will lead to more documentation at the beginning?
Good topic. Yeah, that's a little bit the problem that very often the people think by introducing no processes or new tools that you directly increase the speed of your development, yeah, that everything is getting better. And there's this this kind of tier of improvement, how this is very often called, that at the beginning by introducing new processes, typically first of all it really slows you down because the new people need to learn about the process, need to create new documentation here. This is where you're losing time. That's right. My recommendation here would be to split a little bit the task, especially when it's about the money at the end, that you can monitor a little bit the real effort at the end. So what was the kind of invest in the new process, in creating new documentation, in creating maybe a new template with the content here, and what is really the project work. Because if you put both together, if you mix it up, it looks like the project is getting very, very expensive. But in reality, it's more the new approach, the new process that was getting expensive here. By separating, you can see this is a kind of invest, and then you can check over the time here, over the next month. This is getting down, and this is by establishing this new process, this new way of documentation here. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Okay, thank you.
And we have a follow-up question from Frank. How to create quick wins?
Oh, quick wins here. What I typically do is working the very, very old style, sorry to say so, but sheet of paper and a pen. When it's about processes, if you start to create a database with a process description here, nice tooling and modeling and everything like this, it takes a while till you can present something and the people really see, yes, okay, this is something we can do. No, this is where I like to sit down with them with a sheet of paper and a pen, or maybe a flip chart and a pen, and we just say, hey, let's write down your processes. And this is where we create the first visualization of their task, really a creation of a very, very simple process using just a kind of flowchart or a SciPoc or something like this. And by looking at this and directly discussing about improvements, where is maybe the bottleneck in your activity, or where's the problem in communication with other disciplines here? By recognizing this directly on this sheet of paper, this is where you already help the people in understanding the process and working at the same time already on improvements here. This would be, in my opinion, a quick win that you can gain here.
Thanks, Timo, for that. We still have some time. Oh, yeah. One new question again from Frank. So Frank, you can also unmute and ask Timo directly, but I can read it out loud, no problem. Apparently users and management are not really trusting in the fact that good preparation at the beginning will end up in better results in processing the task. 1 second. That come out of the good presentation.
Yes, I once sat in a meeting together with management, and I exactly know this kind of situation, because this was where we tried to improve a process about requirements, and we explained an approach that takes about 1 week to do the complete analysis. And at the end, the management was telling us, hey, but why is this necessary? Because so far we needed only 1 day here. So why is it really better? So is preparation at the beginning, this 1 week, really helpful for us? Why should we do this kind of invest here in this week? The problem is that you have no data for comparison. And sorry, I still cannot create this data for comparison. Maybe listening to the people that are really working in the process is then more helpful. And maybe this is something you can present to the management. First of all, the fact that you cannot compare here, because you're comparing two completely different things. If you do not this preparation at the beginning, you have a lot of activities for correction afterwards. But very often this time for correction, this is where you're really losing time, where you need all the resources. This is somewhere hidden. This is not really shown to management. You can try to work it out, to really list it up here in all the correction activities that were really necessary in the past, and say, hey, look at this, this huge list, this amount of hours, this is what we could have saved if we have defined this at the beginning. And the second step, maybe even more helpful, is to really let the people talk who are really working according to the process, because this is what I mentioned at the beginning. Our employees, they are really struggling with the situation at the moment. And if they have less time and less support with those kind of processes here, then they're completely burned out. And maybe their opinion is helpful for the management as well.
Timo, maybe I have a question
Yeah.
regarding this topic. So there are, let's say, 2 ways of designing processes. Either you can define them top to bottom, so from top level view, or you can say define them from bottom up. So within the team, really designing the processes. What is your experience in these 2 approaches, and what is your preferred way of doing it?
So none of both, because typically I do a mixture out of both. So this is where you start to define something from top to bottom. This is where you try to give a little bit the borders only, the conditions of the process. But then coming bottom up to the top in talking about real activities that are performed here, and letting the people explain their daily work. And I think this is really the challenge. So process documentation is not just by copying a standard in a nice document here. No, this is really communication with the people, working with the people, as I explained, bringing those 2 words together. All the conditions and the borders from top, and then bringing it together with the reality, with the real work of the people here. I think this is what is a little bit the discussion at the moment, or this is why we think that people especially in other countries at the moment, are much faster and cheaper than we are. They very often come with really a kind of just bottom, top-down process here. Just by definition, hey, this is what you have to do, and then everybody can work according to this. This might be helpful at the moment, but then you have no flexibility because nobody is really finding their own task inside of such a description. And this is why I don't think that this is really long lasting. And that's the difference to my typical approach, that I use this kind of mixture of both.
I agree, Timo. Thanks for that. We have some more questions. So from Marianne. So many thanks for the presentation, first of all. Is it beneficial to conduct multiple project reviews throughout the project life cycle?
In one project again and again and again. This is again where very often it's frustrating for the people if they have the feeling, hey, I'm reviewed again and again. So I think they need time for improvement as well. At the end, I think this is really a problem with all the standards in the last years, that standards have been used just to to judge the work of the people. So it's just about judgment, just coming up with some levels that need to be reached at the end, and they completely loses the focus of the improvement. And this is why, no, it doesn't make sense here. It is more helpful to say, let's work closer together with the people, because the effort that you need for this kind of project reviews that you do again and again, you can use for kind of supporting them in the real processes, because then you can create some results that you can reuse afterwards here. Then you have a learning progress. Here it is like, sorry, it's like the teacher that is telling the class again and again, you are all losers here, but not telling them how to do things better, not helping them in improving themselves.
Okay, let's head on to the next question. Again from Frank. So in my opinion, one of the problem is the payback time of introducing better processes and standards is usually quite long. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you already asked for quick wins. This is why you should focus on quick wins. And by the way, I think exactly the point or the topic you brought up, this is still a problem in many organizations. Maybe a lot of managers will kill me for my opinion here, but if you're a manager and you're just thinking for the next 5 years here, because hey, this is where I will have this kind of job, and I'm just looking to get my bonus at the end here, you do not want to do things that will show the effect after those 5 years. And I think this is what was the problem during the last years. Talking only for short-term improvements here, just to come up with the products to earn the money here. But working on standards, processes, improving the work in the company, at the end, the main focus still is not earning money. It is helping the people working in the projects here, trying to support them. And this is something that will not happen only during the next years here. This is working really for the future here.
Okay. One question from Umesh. Can you guide us or are aware of a good source for data on how process documentation earlier in the project helps save later?
Oh, they try to create a lot of ideas like this. As I said, there are really statistics about this. A place where you can look it up, it's not that easy to find here, because it's mixed up, and you will find a lot of fake results as well. I would invite you to contact me maybe after the webinar, and I can try to give you some helpful data here.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's have a look at the chat if there are some more questions. No, and also in the F&A not. So I would say, Timo, we are perfectly in time. We should close this webinar. Thank you very much for the good presentation, and thank you all for the good discussion.
Thanks a lot, and bye-bye to everybody.
You are the pioneers. With your visions, your ideas, and your passion to make things better. And we are the ones who protect you from pitfalls. We are by your side whenever needed as a true fellow. Reliable, pragmatic, realistic. Together we make your product come alive. Imagine you enjoy improvement. Process fellows.